An Ashes Test, the Tour of Sri Lanka and the Big Bash final. And we've got a star-studded cast to match the action. Glenn Maxwell and Aaron Finch review that Mitch Owen knock. Hall of Famer Michael Clarke talks Test cricket. Plus, special guest Alana King, the leading wicket taker against an England side crumbling in Australia. Let's go around the wicket. Hello and welcome to Around the Wicket. I'm Nerily Meadows. Aaron Finch back alongside us, but we welcome in for a studio debut Glenn Maxwell. And what better time, Maxie, than to have you after that incredible Mitch Owen knock in the Big Bash final. Hurricanes win their maiden Big Bash title. He scores 108 off 42. Is that some of the best ball striking you've ever seen?
Probably the best, especially being in a final. 11 sixes, striking at 257, single-handedly won the game in the power play. It was just amazing to watch, and the whole crowd chanting Mitchell Owen the whole night. I know I went to bed with that chant in my head the whole night, so I wasn't the only one.
It was such a sensational moment, and the backstory of this as well. He was a young teenager in the crowd, and this photo stands in the Hurricanes arena down there in Bell Reeve, cheering on George Bailey. Loved every moment of it. Last night, he gets to be the man in the middle. Best knock that you've seen in the Big Bash?
Oh, by a mile. The fact that, like Maxie said, it was in a final makes it even more special. They had their backs against the wall. The Thunder put up a total, which was the highest ever run chase, should they get it done. And I mean, 2 overs in, the game is over. Like, he has just single-handedly taken them to an easy win after that. And the fact that he kept going, he just destroyed what was a pretty good attack. Extraordinary. 62
runs off the first 3 overs individually, a 16-ball 50, a 39-ball 100, which equals the fastest ever in the Big Bash. But also his season overall, a couple of hundreds, striking at 203. To put that into perspective for people, your best season, I think, was striking at 198.
Get on with it.
It's astonishing what he's achieved this year at 23 years of age.
Got to say, it's a lot tougher in the middle order though. So at the top of the order with the field restrictions, no, it's absolutely incredible. And I think it's when he came onto the scene as an opener this year, there's probably a few question marks about how it would go. And when they got bowled out for 70, I think in that first game against the Renegades, there was obviously going to be a bit of a review going in after that. And he stuck to his guns, kept playing big shots, kept taking the game on. And I think he had 100 in a couple games later. And to finish off the season, 452 runs, averaging 45, striking at 203. That's an amazing year. And it sets the rest of your team up. Whatever start he got off to, whether it would be 30 off 10 or 11, all of a sudden they're off to a head start, and the middle order is able to control the tempo of the game from then on in. And he's a massive part of the reason they had those 7 wins in a row throughout the middle of the tournament.
How bright is his future? Australia?
Oh, he'd be in the conversation, no doubt. To walk in and open the batting for the first time. I know he's done it at the start of the year a little bit in one-day cricket, but to then take the Big Bash by storm at the top of the order, that just shows that he's versatile. He can bowl some overs. He's decent in the field. He can play in the middle order, although we haven't seen quite the results that he would have liked there as well. But yeah, he'll be in the conversation, no doubt, when the next generation start coming through. You think of the guys, Fraser McGurk, Matty Short, Cooper Connolly, throw Mitch Owen in there as well.
Thunder started batting first, none for 97 off 10 overs, then ended up 7 down. It was Riley Meredith and particularly Nathan Ellis, the skipper, who got things back on track. A word on their bowling?
Well, between them, 6 for 50 off 8 overs, the rest of their attack, none for 131 off 12.
He's done his research.
It's pretty incredible to see how much of an impact those 2 bowlers had on the rest of their team, and they needed someone to stand up at that time. The Thunder were in a position where they could go enormous at the back end. 14, 15 and over wasn't out of the question for the last 10.
Especially with the surge up their sleeve as well.
And I think that's where they missed a bit of a trick, the Thunder. I thought they could have taken the surge straight after and almost started their power hitting at the back a little bit earlier and put the Hurricanes under a bit more pressure. And if you're going to have 2 guys taking on the game, you want 2 guys to be in. And Sanger and Warner were definitely in, and they probably just allowed them to get just back in the game, and they really strangled them really well at the back end.
Yeah, and I think when you go in a batter light, they had Chris Green at number 6. You're always just a little bit worried about losing that 1 extra wicket. So if we take the power surge now and we lose one, then we ended up with our bowling all-rounders batting towards the back end and in the power surge. So that would have been in the back of their mind. They would have wanted to go a little bit deeper, but in the end, Nathan Ellis, he was unbelievable. To get 2 wickets back-to-back to start it off, he was extraordinary.
David Warner, they didn't get the win under his captaincy, but back as a leader in Australia, second leading run scorer for the entire Big Bash. Was it a bit of a redemption summer for him, do you think?
I wouldn't say redemption summer. I think that overall we've seen a guy who's been one of the best players ever in T20 cricket come back and dominate, as we know that he always would. So for me, he was brilliant right throughout. I think his leadership, it's just small things. The attitude seemed to change from the Sydney Thunder under his leadership. They were brilliant in the field for majority of the tournament. They had a couple of slip-ups last night. Their running between wickets was unbelievable right throughout. So you just put those little parts in that David Warner brings to the table, and it makes for a pretty special team. To go from last to having an opportunity to win a final was huge.
Now, Maxie, I hope that you're pleased to be with us, but I know you'd prefer to be in Sri Lanka right now. How are you feeling, a week or two after hearing the news?
Yeah, I'm pretty much at peace with it. I think as soon as they won that last test, you could probably sort of see the writing on the wall, and whatever small percentage of a chance I might have had to be on that tour probably evaporated when they made the Test Championship. And look, I'm extremely excited, like every Australian, to be able to watch the Australian team play over there. I know the conditions are going to be extreme. It's probably quite similar to playing at Spotless or NG Stadium, whatever it was called this year, and how the ball spins. It's inconsistent. There's going to be some periods in the test where it's in fast forward and sometimes in slow motion where it's hard to get wickets. So it's a great place to play. It's exciting. Our play against spin is going to be challenged. It's not something that any of our younger players would have seen too much of. So that's something I'm really looking forward to watching. And
then you've got the Champions Trophy coming up. Your first time to Pakistan, which is kind of unbelievable with all the cricket that you've played.
36, isn't it?
All over the world. Are you looking forward to that and putting you on the spot a little bit, but is it a chance that could be the last that you play for Australia, or are you not looking like that?
I'm not looking that far ahead. I think
That's not that far ahead. It's only in a couple of weeks.
Well, it would be post that, it would be. I think that the way I've been playing, I think over the last sort of period, has probably given me a good sign that I've still got a lot of cricket left in my body, and the fact that I was able to come back from a hamstring injury, still feel all the hot spots during the Big Bash, get through that fitness-wise, and still be able to perform with the bat and ball. So I'm really confident with where my game's at, that I can play for a little bit longer, probably not quite like Peter Sill till he's 40 and bowling 150s, but
that was unbelievable, wasn't it?
It was amazing to watch, and maybe not like Dan Christian as well, coming off the coaching bench and straight into the colours. But I'd love to think that I've got a couple of years left.
I like the sound of that. Don't go anywhere, because Michael Clarke, newly crowned a Hall of Famer, if you don't mind, is coming up next.
It's been a topic of conversation for the last little bit in this team on whether it be Australian, first innings, second innings, why doesn't the order change, why can't we be flexible, where can we win a test match, what moves, how can we be brave. That hasn't played out as such yet. Is this the tour to do it? We'll wait and see.
Travis Head with the sentiment that the game is evolving. We need to be brave. Time to welcome in Michael Clarke now. Pup, right off the top, congratulations into Cricket Australia's Hall of Fame. We're all super proud of you here. Great moment. What do you think about Travis Head's call there, changing the order potentially from the first inning to the second?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, and very kind words, Nez. Look, I think the game is evolving. There's no doubt about it. I think we see that across all three formats. And as a batsman, I wish I could play again. And I agree with him. I'd like to open the batting when it's an absolute belter in any innings, and then when it's seaming around, I'd probably like to bat about 8 or 9 if that's possible. So if you can put that on the resume, I'll hand it in. But I think you see it. I think when you see teams chasing a big total, for example, not many overs left on day 4 or day 5 of a test match, sometimes you see, batting order changes. So, it wouldn't be the first time it's happened in test cricket. But I think in regards to my opinion around, going into these test matches is I think Australia's playing great cricket. They're full of confidence. I wouldn't be changing too much too early. If it happens throughout the game and you make that decision, then I can certainly understand that. But in regards to Sam Constas opening the batting in the first test, I would be assuming he will. I think that's part of international cricket. You travel around the world, you play in different conditions, and you've got to learn to adapt and adjust rather than just, I think especially opening the batting. We've had this conversation over the past couple of years. I think it's a specialist position, and I'd like to back Sam Constas and think he can score runs opening the batting in conditions in Sri Lanka.
Maxie, when you hear all this conversation about being so embracing of unorthodox styles, you sit there going, I wish I was 10, 15 years younger. I would have had a different test career.
Well, it's funny that Pups said that, because I think he put me up to number 3 in Dubai when we were chasing 500. That didn't go very well. But that was also the test on Wicket kept. So there was a lot of moves that Pup made that didn't quite... And bowled. So there was a few moves that didn't quite move on that tour.
He's the ultimate all-rounder.
Mate.
That's why he should be in Sri Lanka.
It was funny because backers came up to everyone after that test and was like patting him, well batted, well bowled. He looked at me and went, well kept. I knew I'd had a bad test when that happened.
Pup just said you should be in Sri Lanka, so there you go. You got some support there.
Oh, that's nice.
Finchy, you feel
Getting
like
over there.
You feel like this could be a tour, though, that we look back on and it could be a real important moment in Australia's future.
Yeah, I do. I think that with the youngsters that are on this tour, you look at Todd Murphy, who's been around for a little bit now, Cooper Connolly, Sam Constas. I just have the feeling that this could almost be the changing of the guard. Yes, there'll be the World Test Championship where they'll go back to, I think, the 11 or the 12 that's got them into that position. But I think that when you go on a subcontinent tour in particular, having youth there is really important. They've got an opportunity to learn in the hardest conditions in the game. They're going there with no preconceived ideas about how it's going to be. They won't have the experience or the negative thoughts clouding their minds that some other players who have had poor experiences in the past go in with. So I think that it's a really great opportunity to get a good look at the next generation of Australian Test players.
And Maxie, Bo Webster, somebody like him, who bowling medium pace in the Aussie summer, bowling off spin in the nets over there, how much does he give a captain an advantage of flexibility?
Well, yeah, add in he's probably the best fielder in the country as well with his hands. He can field anywhere. The fact that he can probably take the new ball, bowl and pace, it means they can potentially play only one fast bowler and bowl a bit of off spin throughout the middle and give that chop out to Nathan Lyon if needed. So the fact that he offers probably 4 or 5 different strings to his bow is quite nice. And
he liked his own work
bad.
there.
I was waiting for a little bit from Finchy there. And the fact that he's coming off so much hot form over the last 2 years. He's been a standout in state cricket in all formats, and he's coming in. He's getting picked at the right time when everything's going right in Bow World, and hopefully he can do the job over there.
Pup, Sri Lanka have come out and named an 18-man squad, which I think is quite extraordinary, given that the 2 tests are in the same place and they're playing at home, but they do have some injury concerns. How tough is it going to be, though, in their conditions? It's been some time since Australia's won in Sri Lanka.
I think it's going to be about how we bowl spin, but how we face spin is probably going to be the most important. I'd be surprised if, and again, I'm thinking that conditions in Gaul are the same as what they were when I played there a long time ago. I'm expecting it to turn from ball 1, so I'd be assuming they'll play 1 fast bowler. You'll be facing spin both innings, and you'll have to have a plan and be able to adapt to that. So winning in the subcontinent's hard, there's no doubt about it. But I agree with the boys. I think this is a good challenge. I think we've got a strong squad, good mix of youth and experience. Sometimes agree with Finchy, the less you know, the better in conditions like that. You face the ball rather than thinking about the bowler or thinking about the pass too much. But it's going to come down to how we bowl and how we face spin.
What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree that they'll get it from ball 1. I'd be very, very surprised if both teams went in with more than 1 genuine quick. Mitchell Starc will play, and I think that there will just be 3 or 4 other spin options. Sri Lanka will be the same.
Maxie, if you were there, what would your plan have been in these conditions?
Well, I think those first few days of training are so important to nut out a plan about how you're going to attack it. And the 2022 series over there was probably the most fun I reckon I've ever had training. The wickets were horrific. They were spinning, jumping, and like the excitement that you get out of like trying to formulate a new plan about how you're going to go about tackling those conditions is so exciting. And as we talked about with the young guys going over there, they get to formulate a way of playing in those conditions where when they come up to a ground like NG Stadium where it is spinning, they'll actually have their plans that they've worked on overseas, and they're able to attack different conditions around Australia, obviously with a little bit better problem-solving ability. And I'm sure they'll be honing into Steve Smith and Marnus's and Usman's previous experiences over there, and they'll be learning so quickly every training session they have.
One serious danger man for the Aussies is a man in serious form, and that is Kamindu Mendez. We hope that the split webbing is fine in his hand so that he can play, because 10 tests are 1,110 runs, an average of 74 and 500s. He's the only Sri Lankan in the ICC men's test team of the year. He's in some serious form in the last 12 months.
He's been in great form and he's a danger man. He's not somebody who allows the opposition to dictate how they bowl to him as well. He's really proactive, which in difficult conditions, that will have its challenges. But overall, he's someone that Australia need to get out because he bats big. Over 1,000 runs in 10 tests. That's an extraordinary start to your career.
It'll be Mitch Starc up against, hopefully, fingers crossed, Elisa Healy, if she is fit to play in the women's test. Pup, I know you've been keeping a keen eye on the Ashes series and the Aussies absolutely demolishing the English. But I'm keen to get your thoughts on the coaches' comments from a couple of days ago. English coach John Lewis came out and said, "I walked from Bondi to Coogee the other Sunday morning. There's about 1 million kids down there and they were doing surf lifesaving or playing touch rugby. For me, that's a cultural difference. I think that Australia have an advantage in terms of athleticism." That's his response to why England are perhaps not in the same condition as the Aussies. What do you think, Pup?
Well, I'll take it as a compliment. I agree. I think it's a good part of the world. I live around the corner. The weather's good. But look, I think professional sport all around the world, you're seeing professional athletes in every sport. And cricket's one of the sports that's come a long way, in the last 50 years, let's say. But yeah, look, I think it is one of the benefits of living in Australia. It's, we get great weather. It's an outdoor culture and we're all quite sporty, but you'd like to think the UK, it's not like it's raining every day. I know you get a lot of rain in the winter, but yeah, these days I'm pretty sure you can put a gym inside as well. So I can't see why you can't train indoors if it's raining like we do in Australia. But I'm taking it as a compliment, put it that way.
Yeah, it's a compliment, but it's also a bit of a cop-out. Absolutely. To sit there and say, "Wow, you've got better weather, so you're going to be more athletic," that's rubbish. So, I mean, they've been a bit petty throughout this whole Ashes series. I mean, Alex Hartley called them out on their fitness and their athleticism, and then for players and coaches to then refuse interviews on the back of that, it's so petulant. It's really poor.
Makes for a long tour if you're doing stuff like that, and then it just makes it a really hard place to be. Throw in the fact that you haven't won a point for the whole series, and you're about to come up against the number one team in the world in a test match in their home conditions at the MCG under lights. They'll be looking forward to the plane home, I reckon. They
need some surf lifesavers to resuscitate their Ashes campaign. All out for 90 in the last T20 International. How do you regather a side, Pup, in order to put in a performance in this Ashes test?
Well, you pick some different players maybe that are coming into the test match that, don't have the scars of what's happened in the one days and T20s. But yeah, it's going to be difficult. But I guess, personal pride comes into it as well. I know there's, probably nothing to play for in regards to, winning the series, but there's always something to play for when you're representing your country. So that would be the conversation I'd imagine the captain and the coach is having. Take it upon yourself as an individual to stand up and let's leave the country with some points. Let's not, leave with our head between our toes and, feeling so down in how bad we play. And like I say, Australia versus England in cricket for both men's and women's is massive. Careers are made, careers are ended. So that's probably how a lot of these players will be looking at it as well.
Michael Clarke, thank you as always for your insights. We look forward to talking to you after the first test in Sri Lanka. Don't go anywhere because we're going to talk more about the women's superstar spin king queen. Alana King is coming up. Such a huge week for cricket in Australia. The one-off Ashes test between Australia and England at the MCG, a day-night test. And joining us to talk more about it is the leading wicket taker so far this Ashes series with 14 wickets, Alana King. Alana, thanks so much for your time. You were born in Victoria. You get the chance to play at the MCG. Just imagine it for a second. Walking out there, big crowd, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for the prospect of, walking out on the MCG. I've played a few games there when I was at the Stars and great memories, that's for sure. But it's going to be a pretty cool spectacle and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
You're leading 12-0 at the moment. Have you got the English on the ropes? You've been very open about wanting that whitewash.
Yeah, and that still hasn't changed. Absolutely, we want the whitewash, and it's just nice that we've played some really good cricket. We obviously haven't played our best cricket at times, but to scrap and to win games that we probably should not have, or people have not backed us in to win. It's been an incredible part to be in this position, 12-0 leading into the last game, and yeah, I'm definitely excited to hopefully get that 16-0 at the end of the series.
And King, we'll get back to your brilliant form in just a second. But how's the skipper, Alyssa Healy, looking? She's missed the last 3 games through injury.
Yeah, look, she's looking good spirits. We've got a training session later tonight, so I think if she gets through that unscathed, I think she'll be suiting up in the Test match, and I think that's pretty exciting for her. She's a pretty big part of this crew, and being the skipper, I'm no doubt she doesn't want to be missing a pretty historic moment in the women's game.
You've been on an absolute fire so far this Ashes series, and I'm really looking forward to watching you play at the G. Just talk to us about the challenges, I suppose. You've got Georgia Wareham, your leg spin counterpart. There's been a heavy, I suppose, fight for spin bowling overs in the Australian team. You've got Ash Gardner, Jess Jonathan played for a long period of time. How's the competitive drive amongst the squad?
Yeah, Maxie, it's always been great, and I think the best thing about this spin group is we're always pushing each other to get better, whether we're in the same team or a few of us are running drinks. I think definitely at training we get the best out of each other, and I love bowling with Ash and Wolfie at this stage, and Soph Molyneux's not here as well, so very excited, and I just think we learn a lot from each other. We all bowl very differently. Even though Wolfie and I bowl leg spin, we still bowl very differently in different formats as well, so it's a great group to be a part of, and we're pretty low maintenance, other than some fast bowlers out there.
Alana, Maxie's been telling me that he was helping you out originally when you used to play at the Stars. Has he overplayed it, or has he played a big part in your career?
No, Maxie has definitely played a big part. Definitely in the power hitting stuff. So had a few sessions with him, and then obviously when I moved to the orange side, less contact, but that's all good. That's all good now. We had a great time at the Stars, and I loved my time at the Stars, and I'll always be Victorian at heart. There's no doubt about that. Even though I've moved my cricket and my life over west, Melbourne and Victoria is definitely a big part of my life, and I love being back here.
Need to get you back up the order power hitting. It's been great to watch when you get out there and smacking them. Need to get you up the order.
And
all right, Maxie. Well, we'll get in another session then.
Yeah,
King, I just wanted to touch on one of the legends, I think, of Australian cricket. She seems to be almost forgotten, Beth Mooney. When you talk about Meg Lanning, Elise Perry, Alyssa Healy, she doesn't really come into that conversation. And then over the past couple of years, the youngsters have all come through. But where does she rank, and what does she mean to your Australian team?
Yeah, Moons just flies under the radar. And I think just because on the pure skill that she has, and I call her Miss Consistent for a reason, because no matter when Australia are in some tough situations, Moons is always there to pick up the slack and provide some really crucial innings for our team. And I think she loves flying under the radar, to be quite honest. I don't think she likes being in the limelight too much, but she's an incredible part of this team. Just the way she bats, her cricket knowledge as well, and having her behind the stumps now, whilst Midge is still recovering, it's been great. I'm a bit biased because she's a WA and Scorcher's teammate, so I've loved having her behind the stumps. But yeah, I think she goes quite unnoticed, and some of the knocks that she's had for Australia have been game-changing, game-winning knocks for us.
One of the superstars that Finchy mentioned, Elise Perry, hasn't been her Ashes so far, 150, but other than that, she's averaging 16 so far, but we know she loves a test match, and she's only 72 runs shy of joining Karen Rolton as the only Aussie woman with 1,000 test runs. What are you expecting from her this test match, and have you noticed that she's maybe got a bit of fire in the belly after a bit of a lean run in the Ashes so far?
Oh, definitely. There is always fire in the belly for Pez, and whether she shows it or not, she definitely loves playing in this team and wants to contribute as much as she can. So, no doubt, the Test match is well suited for Pez, and she could bat for days. And I've never seen someone who can bat that much. So, I think she could be maybe the equivalent to Smudge in the men's setup, is what I hear. But yeah, I'm excited for Pez to be playing out in a big Test match, and no doubt those 72 runs, they won't be in the forefront of her mind, but it'll be a nice accolade for her to have post-series.
Hopefully she doesn't do a smudge at the SCG. Alana, just finally, are you feeling the love? Like, the boys are really genuinely excited for all of this. It feels like the country's really getting around it. Are you feeling the love?
Yeah, definitely. I think the love's been well catered for across the whole series, and we've loved it. The fans have come out, and we put on some really good cricket. And I think all Australians love beating the English as well. So that obviously helps with that. And I'm just hoping that people still don't think that the series is done just because we're leading 12-0 and we've technically won the Ashes. That there's still one more incredible game to be played at the G with a pink ball under lights in one of the best cities in the world. You can't get much better than that. So very much looking forward to it, and the love is definitely being felt. Nothing better than a series whitewash against England. Alana, thank you so much for your time. All the best in the test. Don't go anywhere. We've got the short stuff next. Tom Curran caught out of his crease by Nicholas Puran. Time for the short stuff. Finchy, when will the English learn to stay in their crease?
That was just dopey. It should have been out. I can't believe that they called him back in the end. You can't just walk out of your crease when the ball's still in play.
Maxie, waist-high no balls. Should they be reviewed?
Of course they should. Cost me 100, maybe even 110.
They should be, definitely.
Which West Indies win was more impressive and more surprising? Last year against the Aussies at the Gabba, or this last few days against Pakistan in Pakistan?
Both great wins, but I think the test win against Australia at the Gabba was unbelievable. No one had really given them much of a hope right throughout, so that will still remain one of the great test wins.
Off the back of the BBL final last night, who's more annoying behind the stump, Sam Billings or Matthew Wade?
Both right up there.
Wadey, surely.
Oh, Bilbo he's loud. Like Wadey's at least very directive, relentless, but Bilbo's loud and obnoxious.
How big will Virat Kohli's return to the Ranji Trophy be? First class domestic match in 12 years.
Huge. There'll be people everywhere, and it's great to see.
Yeah, of course. Massive.
Thanks, gentlemen. We'll see you next week.